So, now that you hopefully know what do you want, it's important to understand that your wants have weights. So, what are these want weights? Well, for example, you might prefer candidate 1's wants on foreign policy over candidate 2's, and candidate 2's wants on energy over candidate 1's. But it's very important to understand that every want has its own weight. Candidate 1's wants on foreign policy, even if you wanted to, might have a lot more weight than candidate 2's wants on foreign policy in either the positive or negative direction, which could involve many variables to calculate. It might actually give you a few dozen headaches trying to solve it, if even possible. But trying to determine the weight of your wants is critical. And as much as I love programming and solving equations, I can't go any deeper than that, because that would require me to share a lot of bias. And the point of this series is for you to be able to choose for yourself. So, I'm sorry, but I'm leaving it up to you to calculate the weight of your wants. However, I will cover weights on a more general level. Act 1. The weight of not voting at all. First off, if you're deciding to surrender your right to vote, surrender your right to contribute to the future, can I ask you, are you okay with someone else choosing your access to education and healthcare? Are you okay with someone else choosing how law enforcement will interact with you? What about you and your loved one's access to Social Security? The jobs that you have access to, the amount that you pay from that job, who you can and cannot marry, and the list goes on. If you're not okay with someone else choosing all those things for you and more, then I strongly urge that you figure out what it is that you want. Then let your voice be heard by voting for whoever has your vision for the future most in mind. Use sethstuff.com/beforeyouvote if you need a little assistance. However, if you are okay with someone else choosing all of that for you, then I guess by all means surrender your voice. But please, if the future doesn't shape out to be how you'd like it, please continue your practice of surrendering your voice. Now, listen, I understand that some people believe that my vote doesn't matter, but that's largely false. Sure, history has shown that there are some devious acts every once in a while, but your vote does matter. And think about this. Acting under the pretense that your vote does not matter is exactly what those who are trying to undermine your vote want. They want for you to not vote to make it easier for them to get what they want. So please ask yourself, do you really want to play into their hands? And I also understand the other reasoning. Both candidates are equally wicked and vile, so what's the point? But the truth is, even if you don't vote, your access to education, healthcare, jobs, Social Security, law enforcement interactions, along with everything else will still be impacted. I know it's tough, but please put some thought into it. Vote third party if you really don't like both. Just please exercise your right to vote. Act 2. The weight of voting third party. So what happens if you calculate the weight of all wants, and the weight of both candidates' wants are terribly in the negative? Well, that's where third parties come in. Don't ever let someone tell you that there's something wrong with wanting to vote third party. The fact is that we do not have a two-party electoral system. In fact, there are many parties: Democratic Party, Republican Party, Independent Party, Libertarian Party, Green Party, Constitutional Party, Reform Party, Socialist Party, and many more parties, which is its own video for another day. But for me to exclude these other candidates would be, simply put, ignorant. However, if you are voting third party, your biggest concern is probably, is voting for a third party a throwaway vote? This is where the weight of all wants come back in. It's extremely important to not only weigh your wants between candidates, but also weighing your wants with other data, stats, and facts. Why do I want to vote for a third party candidate? How likely is it for a third party candidate to win? Do I want the third party candidate to win? Would my vote be better served voting for a major party candidate that also has my wants in mind? Etc, etc, etc. All questions that I will not, and rightfully cannot, answer for you. That's an inner conversation that you must have with yourself. But I can help you out with this fact. Based on the last 3 elections, a Cornell study shows that third parties often get less than 50% of what they actually poll. And as I'm writing this video, Gary Johnson is polling at 5% and Jill Stein is polling at 2%. Now, not saying that the third parties will do the same this election, I just don't think that this is an election possible for a third party to turn around and poll more than 40% for the general election to beat Hillary Clinton, who is currently leading at about 47%. If, that is, your hopes for voting third party is for them to win. But I do believe that due to the awareness of this election, the chances for a third party winning in future elections has increased. So, if you know what you want and you weighed your wants and your internal verdict is to vote third party, then by all means, I encourage you to vote third party. Either way, your voice will be heard. Maybe not as quick as others would like, but the increase in third party support will influence others in the future when looking back. Act 3. The weight of voting Donald Trump. If you're voting for Donny Boy, it's really important to understand that unlike Clinton's want to run business as usual, Donald Trump's wants have promises that challenge a lot of traditional practices in the US on immigration, abortion, healthcare, space, foreign policy, trade, gay marriage, and the list goes on. So if you're voting for Donald Trump, you have a little extra homework than usual due to the novelty of it all. You must really calculate the weight of all these wants in depth, because once changed, it might be difficult or maybe even impossible to unchange, be it for the better or worse. But if you know what you want, and Donald Trump has a similar vision to that want, and you've weighted all the wants to not only other candidates, but its possible implications, the want's likelihood, etc., then by all means, I encourage you to vote for Donald Trump. Act 4. The weight of voting Hillary Clinton. If you're voting for Hill Dog, it's really important that you understand that Hillary Clinton has been in politics for more than 30 years. So she has seen and learned many things, some of which that you are aware of, and others of which that you have no idea about, be it both good stuff and bad stuff. Unlike Donald Trump's want to change a lot of traditions, not much is changing with Hillary Clinton. She wants to run business as usual with the want of some improvements. When voting for Hillary, you must not only weigh all the wants to other candidates, but also to wants likelihood, possible implications, and of course, to 30+ years of political history. Like someone with Hillary Clinton's experience, the empirical data is there. The question is, how will you weigh it? But if you know what you want, and Hillary Clinton has a similar vision to that want, and you've weighed all the wants with as many variables as possible, then by all means, I encourage you to vote for Hillary Clinton. Act 5. Finn. And that's pretty much it, folks. It wasn't that brutal, right? To quickly recap, before you vote, know that this election was so close to being something different, which in itself is a variable to be considered for all of your weights. And despite the majority of media coverage of ad hominem attacks on all candidates, understand and know, what do you want? But don't just understand what do you want on the surface level, also understand and know the weight of your wants as well. Do the best you can to identify these weights by having healthy conversations about politics with your friends and family, doing research, and never stop asking questions. For all of these things are how we make sure that every election after this one will be something different. That's something different that we the people actually want. I'll see you guys on part 5, where we get into my personal vision. Oh boy.